can't recall the exact spot I stood when my father uttered those words. It was during my niece's graduation celebration, with the entire family convened in the backyard. Picnic tables adorned with balloons, those uncomfortable plastic folding, chairs digging into our legs. Laughter filled the air as we toasted to her scholarship at Stanford. My father, Gerald, donning his familiar khaki shorts and veteran's cap, raised his glass, praising the Kalin family legacy. He often refers to our name as if it were some royal lineage, failing to recognize we're just ordinary middle-class folks from Pennsylvania, indulging in too much potato salad. I approached with a plate of food, beaming. That's my part in this family, the smiler, the nodder, the black sheep who stirs no trouble. Next to me was my son, Elias, quiet and polite, trying to blend into his hoodie. I felt immense pride for my niece but couldn't shake off my thoughts. Elias is equally bright, perhaps brighter. He had just gained acceptance into 3 excellent universities, working tirelessly while balancing a part-time job and assisting me with caring for my mother during her chemotherapy. No tutors or SAT prep, just determination and my support. So, I leaned in and casually asked, "Dad, does Elias get a share of the college fund too?" Gerald didn't even glance up. He merely shook his head, muttering, "Why waste it on him? He's from a broken home." That moment shattered something inside me, not because I hadn't heard worse, but because Elias had faced exclusion before. The nonchalance of my father's words struck deeply, as if it were a universally accepted fact. It snapped the fragile facade I had maintained for 17 years. I didn't argue or cause a scene. I just smiled and kept quiet, as I always did. Yet, inside, I was seething. What my father, and the rest of the family, didn't realize was that Elias had been crafting a speech, one he intended to deliver as the valedictorian of his class. He hadn't confided in anyone, not even me, about his plans. But when the moment arrived, and he stood at the podium in his cap and gown, microphone trembling slightly in his grasp, I sensed something monumental was about to unfold, though I couldn't predict its magnitude. When he delivered his closing line, I turned to gauge my father's reaction. Even he, Gerald Kalin, the man who once claimed I tarnished the family image by divorcing, rose, not to applaud, but in astonishment. Before sharing what Aliyah said, you must grasp the experience of raising a child in a family where love comes with conditions. In a household where tradition outweighs truth, being a Kalin only grants value if you conform. I'm Naomi, a single mother, librarian, and a daughter who never managed to earn her father's pride. This is the tale of how my son, my quiet, thoughtful, underestimated son, accomplished something miraculous, something no one anticipated, not even me. This is the account of his words on that stage and the reason that moment transformed everything. What they overlooked about my son. Let's rewind to where this truly began. Not at the graduation celebration, nor when Elias received his college acceptance letters, but 17 years earlier in a cramped hospital room where I cradled him in one hand while signing my divorce papers with the other. Elias entered this world during the bleakest period of my life. My marriage crumbled faster than I ever imagined. My ex-husband Ryan cheated while I was pregnant, moving out 2 months before Elias's birth and remaining inconsistent ever since. He sends birthday messages occasionally. That's the extent of his involvement. My family reacted poorly to the news. My mother mourned my divorce more than she did when she lost her sister. My siblings, Catherine and Joel, barely spoke to me for a time. Gerald, my father, offered little more than a single unforgettable line. "Well, you made your bed." Perhaps I did. But I made another one for Elias. Warm, safe, filled with bedtime stories, because from the moment he opened his eyes, he became my universe. We didn't have much, but we had each other. I worked as a librarian. Not exactly a gold mine, but I cherished it. I would bring Elias with me after school, and he'd quietly immerse himself in the children's section, devouring every book he could find. By age 8, he was reading at a 10th grade level. By 10, he was writing poignant short stories that brought tears to my eyes, not solely for their quality, but because they came from this quiet, observant child who rarely asked for anything, yet felt everything profoundly. He never complained about wearing thrift store clothes or questioned why we didn't vacation like his cousins. He never, not once, voiced his awareness of how differently the family treated him. but I noticed. Catherine and Joel's children always had seats at the adult table, while Elias, even at 14, sat with the younger ones. At Christmas, they received gift cards and video games, while Elias got socks. One year, Gerald forgot to label his stocking. Elias never showed he was bothered, but I could see it in the way he meticulously folded his napkin 3 times before eating, in how he waited for others to speak first, in the journal he always carried, jotting down thoughts he didn't feel safe expressing aloud. I often wanted to scream at my family, "Look at him! Can't you see how extraordinary he is?" But I held my tongue, hoping that by remaining silent long enough, they'd eventually come around. Spoiler alert. They didn't. The only person who truly recognized Elias was my mother, Doreen. She would listen to his stories, affectionately calling him my little professor. Even in her final year, weakened by chemotherapy, she would light up at his arrival, claiming he reminded her of someone. Me as a child before the world grew noisy, before I learned to diminish myself to fit my family's expectations. When she passed, Elias was 15. He didn't cry in public, but that night, I discovered a poem he had tucked inside her Bible, titled "The Last Woman Who Saw Me." That line tore me apart. Following her death, it was just us, me and Elias, navigating. A family that made us feel like mere extras in a movie they starred in. Yet throughout all of this, being overlooked, undervalued, and outright dismissed, he never lashed out. He studied, he assisted, he wrote, and when senior year rolled around, he applied to colleges without asking me for a cent. He was accepted everywhere. So, yes, when my father remarked, "Why waste it on him?" I smiled and said nothing. But that smile was not surrender. It was a promise. Because what they failed to see, what they never saw, was that my son was about to demonstrate precisely who he was. I knew deep down that when that moment arrived, they wouldn't forget it. Why waste it on him? There are moments in life that don't merely hurt. They leave a stain. They cling to your skin, your voice, your memory. You carry them quietly, for years. That moment in my father's backyard, the one where he dismissed my son's entire future with a single phrase, was one of those. Why waste it on him? He's from a broken home. He didn't utter it in anger. It was said as casually as one might discuss the weather, as if Elias's worth was simply less apparent. I turned to my son, who had paused mid-bite, his fork hovering over a paper plate filled with potato salad and ribs. He didn't flinch or cry. He merely looked down and resumed eating, more slowly this time. I longed to grab my father's drink and douse him with it. I wanted to stand up and shout, "You don't know him," but I refrained. I had learned that, in this family, standing up for oneself only provides them with more reasons to dismiss you. So, I remained seated, smiling, simmering. Later that night, I found Elias in his room, typing away. I inquired about his feelings, and he replied, "Fine." A moment later, he asked, "Do you think it's true?" That question cut deeper than anything Gerald could have said. I sat on the edge of his bed, took a breath, and replied, "No, baby. What's broken is how they perceive the world, not you." He nodded, but I could see the doubt lurking in his eyes. He was already cataloging that moment, another entry in his journal of unspoken thoughts. After that, something shifted. Elias began working harder, sleeping less. He had always been smart, but now he was driven, relentless. Every scholarship, every writing contest, every extra credit assignment became a lifeline for him. I worried he was escaping something rather than pursuing it. One afternoon, I returned home early from work to hear him crying behind the bathroom door. It wasn't loud, just muffled sobs, as if he were trying to suppress them. I didn't knock. I couldn't. I sat outside that door for 20 minutes, my hand on the floor, heart racing, reflecting on how many times I had allowed him to feel alone just to avoid creating waves. But then, gradually, I noticed something else taking form. He began writing again, not merely for school, but for himself. He stayed after class with his English teacher, who later informed me that Elias possessed something extraordinary, not just intelligence, but importance. His words carried weight. One evening during dinner, Elias said, "They selected me for what?" Valedictorian. I dropped my fork, not out of surprise. He deserved it, but because I understood what that moment entailed. Not just the title or the honor, but the microphone, the stage, the audience full of those who had underestimated him. I asked, "What will you say?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm not sure yet, but I want them to truly hear me. Suddenly, the stakes were elevated. This transcended college funds. This was about Elias discovering his voice in a space that had ignored it for 17 years. In the days leading up to the ceremony, I anticipated someone in the family would reach out, offer congratulations, say anything, but no one did. Catherine posted a picture of her daughter's prom dress, while Joel shared an image of his new grill, yet none mentioned Elias. Not once. It didn't matter, though, because Elias was no longer seeking their approval. He was focused on writing. His speech. Though he never allowed me to read it, I could see the intensity in his eyes as he crafted it, how he rewrote each line, how he whispered phrases to himself when he thought no one was listening. He was constructing something monumental, something that would resonate like thunder. I sensed it wouldn't be polite, it would be the truth. Let them hear you. The days leading to graduation felt peculiar, not in a negative sense, but as if calm settled before the storm. Elias exuded a calm that didn't signify peace. He moved purposefully, as if something crucial lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. I would ask about his speech, and he would respond with that half-smile of his, the one he wears when he's unable to lie but can't reveal the truth either. "It's coming along," he'd say. "I just want it to matter." Matter? That word lingered as I understood his intention. He wasn't writing a speech to meet a requirement. He wasn't trying to impress a principal or enhance his college resume. He sought to convey something to everyone, to us. He was weary of being invisible. The night before the ceremony, I found him on the porch, journal in his lap, gazing at the stars. He appeared smaller, somehow, younger, like the little boy who once asked me if I believed trees had feelings. I sat beside him, saying, "You don't have to bear all this alone, you know." He didn't look at me, simply replied, "If I don't say it now, when will I?" I nodded. "Then say it. Everything." We sat in silence afterward. He didn't require a pep talk. He needed space to stand in his truth, and I wouldn't hinder that. Earlier that week, I had emailed the family details about the graduation, ceremony, time, place, seating. No one replied, not a single acknowledgement, not even a, "We'll try to make it." I wasn't surprised, but I was furious. This was one of his most significant moments, and they treated it like just another Thursday. On the morning of the ceremony, Elias emerged from his room in his cap and gown. He looked sharp, composed, as if he belonged in front of a crowd. I took a photo. He didn't smile. "Are you ready?" I asked. He adjusted his tie and replied, "I've been ready." Upon arriving at the school auditorium, it was packed, parents fanning themselves with programs, teachers beaming with pride. I found our seats and scanned the crowd. To my astonishment, I spotted them. Gerald in his pressed shirt and veteran's cap, Catherine with her arms crossed, Joel engrossed in his phone. They were all there, sitting together in the third row, as if they had earned the right to front row, seats for something they had never helped create. I remained silent, guiding Elias backstage and squeezing his hand. "Whatever you say up there," I whispered, "I'll be proud." He nodded, devoid of fear, filled with purpose. Back in my seat, I could barely breathe. They began announcing the honors students and awards. The principal took the stage, introducing Elias as valedictorian, detailing his GPA, scholarships, and acceptance to Northwestern. I could hear my family behind me murmuring quietly in surprise, clearly not expecting this from him. Then Elias stepped forward, my son, shoulders back, chin high, journal in hand. He didn't utilize the pre-approved podium speech. I noticed immediately. Instead, he opened his journal, flipped to a page, and surveyed the audience. He started with the formalities, thanking teachers, students, and staff. Then the atmosphere shifted. He paused, directly addressing the audience. "There are individuals in this room who didn't expect to see me here today. Those who thought I wasn't worth the investment, that being from a broken home made me broken too. but I've learned something. You don't need a perfect family to build a strong future." A ripple flowed through the crowd. My heart pounded. He continued, voice unwavering, eyes locked on those who had tried to diminish him. "Some of us are born into applause. Some have to earn every clap. But that doesn't make us less. It makes us strong." I turned to look at my father. He wasn't smiling or clapping. He merely stared, arms crossed, lips tight. Good. Let him feel that. Because Elias wasn't finished. In that moment, I realized this wasn't about revenge or rebellion. It was a reckoning, a line that silenced the room. There's a moment when someone fully embraces who they are and time seems to slow, the air grows heavy and the silence deepens. That was the moment Elias stood there, journal open, eyes fixed on the audience. He wasn't reciting a speech. He was delivering a truth with every ounce of quiet strength he had accumulated over years of being overlooked. "There are people," he reiterated, "who told my mother I'd never be enough, that she failed me simply by raising me alone. But she didn't fail me. She fought for me. She taught me how to stand tall without applause, how to work hard when no one was watching, how to believe in myself when those who were supposed to didn't." You could feel a shift in the room. The audience, mostly parents and teachers, leaned forward. A few gasped, some wiped their eyes. Yet my family remained unmoved. Gerald sat. Stone-faced, Catherine glanced sideways at him, and Joel reclined in his seat, as if watching a performance he didn't want to admit was captivating. But Elias didn't waver. He stood with the composure of someone who had nothing left to prove and everything to express. "I spent years thinking silence meant peace," he continued, "that if I kept my head down, maybe I'd earn my place. That, if I worked hard enough, perhaps I'd stop feeling like a guest in my own family." My hands trembled in my lap. Then he proclaimed, "I realized something vital. You don't wait to be invited to occupy space in this world. You claim it. You build it. You own it." I scanned the room. Parents nodded, kids whispered, a few teachers dabbed at their eyes. And then Elias closed his journal. He glanced up. This time his gaze wasn't scanning the room. It was laser-focused directly on one man, Gerald. That's when he said it. "I was raised in what they call a broken home. But broken homes don't create broken people. They raise fighters, they raise listeners, they raise leaders. They raise sons who stand here today and compel even the quiet ones to listen." It landed like a thunderclap. For a brief moment, no one moved. No one clapped. It was as if the room collectively inhaled. Then the applause surged like a wave. People rose, not merely offering a polite standing ovation, but as if something significant had transpired, as if they recognized they had witnessed something greater than a graduation address. That's when it happened. Gerald stood. Not hastily, not dramatically. He rose slowly, as if unsure whether he intended to do so at all, but he stood, and for a fleeting second, his expression cracked. Not a smile, not tears, just the faintest flicker of something in his eyes. Shock, realization, perhaps even shame, but not pride. Not yet. That would come later, perhaps. Yet, in that moment, Elias didn't require his pride. He had already triumphed. After the ceremony, I walked, with Elias to the car, expecting him to be buzzing with excitement, proud, thrilled, but he was quiet, contemplative, as if the storm had passed, leaving serene waters in its wake. "Are you okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, I didn't do it to hurt him." "I know," I replied. "You did it to heal yourself." He offered a slight smile. Perhaps someone like me was in that crowd, someone who needed to hear it. That line broke me because it encapsulated who Elias is, who he has always been. Not angry, not bitter, just courageous. Later that evening, I received a text from Gerald. He surprised me. I stared at it for a long time. No apology, no acknowledgement of his earlier words, but I didn't require one. Elias had articulated everything that needed to be expressed, and the world had listened. What my son taught me about worth. You might think that after a moment like that, after your son stands on a stage and reveals the truth to a room full of people who have spent years pretending he didn't exist, Things would change overnight. But they didn't, at least not visibly. Gerald didn't call me. He didn't approach me after the ceremony. He didn't hug Elias or say, "I'm proud of you," or "I was wrong." That would have required more humility than he had ever displayed. Instead, he sent a text. He surprised me. Just 3 words. No punctuation, no warmth, but somehow they felt louder than any speech he had ever given at those family gatherings. For Gerald Kalin, that was a crack in the wall, not an apology, but perhaps an opening. Still, I didn't respond. This story was never about him. That night, Elias and I settled on the living room floor, eating takeout and rewatching his speech. From someone's Instagram story, a video of the entire event had been posted, captioned, "Best grad speech I've ever heard. This kid's going places." The clip had already garnered thousands of views. I glanced at Elias and said, "That's your legacy now." He shrugged. It was just a speech. "No," I insisted. It was a statement. He paused before replying, "I didn't do it for him, or for them. I did it for us, for the version of me I used to be, the one who thought he had to shrink to fit into this family." That realization hit me hard. This story began with me trying to shield Elias from feeling inferior. Yet, in the end, it was he who taught me the essence of being whole. I had spent years quietly seeking validation, trying not to upset my father, avoid embarrassing the family, or make things harder for Elias than they already were. I believed that if I remained small enough, they would eventually make room for us. But Elias never wanted a spot at their table. He built his own. In the weeks following graduation, something shifted between us. There was a newfound stillness in him, a grounded confidence I hadn't witnessed before, as if a storm had passed, leaving resilience in its wake. He packed for college with enthusiasm, not apprehension, bidding farewell to his childhood room, as if he were closing a chapter rather than losing something. He wasn't running away from the family that overlooked him. He was stepping toward the life he had created for himself, step by step, choice by choice, word by word. As for me, I stopped waiting for approval. I ceased sending the family photos. They never requested. I stopped hoping Gerald would awaken one day and see me as a worthy daughter. I let go of the desire to explain my son's brilliance to those too proud or too blind to appreciate it, because I no longer needed their validation. The world recognized it. A few months into his first semester, Elias called me from his dorm. "Guess what?" he exclaimed. "I just won the Freshman Writing Award." "Of course you did," I replied, grinning into the phone. "What was it for?" He hesitated before saying, "An essay about being raised by a woman who taught me I was enough before anyone else ever did." Tears welled in my eyes right there in the grocery store, standing between the apples and the peanut butter. Because that's the true conclusion of this story. Not revenge, not validation, nor even pride, but love. A love that's quiet and unwavering, refusing to yield even when the world tells you to. A love that nurtures a boy into a man who knows his worth so profoundly that not even the harshest rejection can sway it. A love that needed no college fund, just belief. So if you've ever been told that your family diminishes you, or if someone has tried to define you by your scars or history, remember this: broken homes don't raise broken people. They raise warriors. They raise writers. They raise sons like Elias and mothers like me. If this story resonated with you, if it echoes your journey or that of someone you love, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video. Share it with someone. Who needs to hear it? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story too. Every voice holds value. When we express our truth, we not only heal ourselves, but also help others feel less alone. And if you seek more stories like this, real, raw, and honest, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Because here, we don't believe in broken people. We believe in comeback stories. Thank you for watching. I'm grateful you were here.